Hello, everybody. Welcome to Writers with Purpose. I am Melvese from Written Words Publishing. At Written Words Publishing, we envision a world where every storyteller, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to share their voice, shape narratives, and impact the world through the written word. And today, our guest will be Lauren Kristen Roberts. She is the author of a suspenseful rom-com titled Gemini Divided. So let's be realistic. An assassin doesn't get a happily ever after, and this is not a fairy tale. For the past 2 years, Jen Calley has set aside her morals to work as an assassin so she can pay for her mother's chemotherapy treatments. The fact that her targets have been horrible people does nothing to relieve her guilt. But when Jen's next mark is Will Bryant, her celebrity crush and the star of her favorite TV show, Gemini Divided, her two lives collide spectacularly. I got that word out good. Steeling herself against her swooning inner fangirl, Jen goes undercover on the Gemini Divided set as Will's new assistant. And to both her delight and dismay, he's even kinder and more down to earth in person than she ever hoped. But now her resolve to kill him evaporates every time she looks in his eyes, which is a problem because Jen's choices are A, kill a man she genuinely likes and keep her mother alive, or B, somehow save him, putting her in grave danger and leaving no way to fund her mother's treatments. Whoa. Okay, that's no pressure, right? With her mysterious employer getting impatient, Jen is given an ultimatum. She has 2 days to kill Will or the deal's off. 2 days to decide which choices she can and cannot live with. 2 days to figure out just how far she'll allow herself to be pushed before she pushes back. Let's welcome the author of this great story to the stage with us today. How are you doing, Kristen? I'm sorry, Lauren.
That's okay. I'm great. Thank you.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for joining us on the show today. This seems like this is a very suspenseful story. So tell us a little bit about yourself and the purpose behind writing Gemini Divided.
Well, I loved to write when I was a kid. And then for some reason, I stopped writing and picked it up again when I was in my early 40s as just, something fun to do while my kids were napping. And right now work for a residential property management company as my day job. And I write when my family's asleep.
Oh, that's awesome. So you were able to find a work-life balance between your home life, your writing career. Which a lot of authors, I see a lot of authors, they have a hard time with doing that. I see a lot of authors say, well, I have a family, I have kids, I have a husband, I have a job. When do you find time to write? When do you find time to write? What's your creative hour? What time of day is best for you when you want your creative juices to flow?
Well, I've tried staying up very late to write, and that did not work for me because I was very tired and I couldn't keep my eyes open. So I got into the habit of getting up very early, which is also a challenge by itself, but the house is nice and quiet. I've had as much sleep as I'm going to get very recently, so I'm more awake than I am at the end of the day. So my writing time is generally pretty early in the morning.
Early in the morning. That's a good time because when you fresh, wide awake, and it's quiet.
Exactly.
So do you find that you need quiet? Because I know for me, who okay, so I had a husband and 4 boys. My house was never quiet. So when I first started writing, it was always noise. So it's at the point now I'm an empty nester, but I have to have noise in the background in order to write. It's crazy.
Well, quiet is good. I can also do it with like just sort of a background noise. I can't have people talking directly to me or things something like that, but I can have like either instrumental music or just sort of a white noise. Like if I go and sit at Starbucks, If somebody's having a loud conversation at the table next to me, that's a problem. But if it's just sort of the general buzz of conversation in the room or just the noise, not any particular noise, just sort of a low rumble of noise, then that works too.
That's good. That's good. So how did you come up with your storyline? Because this is sounds like this is a really good story. And then how did you take suspense and tie it in with rom com?
Well, it was funny because when I started writing again about 8 years ago, my kids were really little. We had just moved to Virginia Beach, so I didn't know anyone. I was working part-time from home, so I didn't have any coworkers, and my life was basically ruled by my kids' schedules, and I was losing my mind a little bit, not having anything of my own. And so I started my character, Jen, in the book writes fan fiction. And that is actually what I started doing myself. I was writing fan fiction for TV shows that I liked and just writing fan fiction, like amazing amounts of it, to the point where my husband said, "Okay, don't you think you should do something a little bit more, something you can use this put it towards something, maybe monetize it because you're doing a lot of it." And I said, "Oh, I don't know. I can't think of an original story to write. I just don't know." And so he came back to me, maybe a couple days later and said, "All right, well, the outline of a book. I think you'd like these characters. I think you'd like to write this." So basically, he came up with it for me.
Well, that's awesome, though. That's awesome that he was there, that he supported you, he encouraged you, and he generated the idea for you. So that's awesome. It's always great when we have somebody to support us, especially someone that's right there with us, living it with us every day. Because a lot of people just don't realize how much time, how much brain power, how much attention it takes to crank out a very good story.
Yeah, and then when I first started writing it and I wasn't quite into it yet, and I had to kind of push myself to work on it, he would come home from work at the end of the day and say, "Did you work on your book today? Did you work on your book today?" Every day until I finally did it enough that I got into it too, and then he didn't have to push me anymore.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, kudos to Mr. Roberts for being your number one fan. That is so awesome. So, your book. Where is your book available for purchase?
Well, I sell it on my website, but it's also available anywhere that books are sold. It's on Barnes& and Noble and Amazon and the Target website and just anywhere you might think to buy a book pretty much.
Well, that's awesome that you decided to take the far and wide route with your book. Because we find nowadays a lot of authors will restrict themselves to one platform, which I, don't agree with. But to each his own. You have to do what is right for you. What made you decide to take the far and wide route, in opposed to being restricted to one platform?
Well, I mean, I wanted it to be available to as many people as possible. And there's one particular platform that lots of authors do tend to focus on. And I had heard some horror stories from authors having really bad experiences being on one platform and then having their accounts revoked or something like that, even when they hadn't done anything. So that was a fear of mine. So I wanted to be have it be somewhere that was a little bit more secure where that wasn't going to happen.
That was a really good decision. Yeah, I see a lot of authors complain about, oh, they took my book down because of the cover, or I received an email saying my account was canceled, but they didn't give me a reason. And who do I call? And what do I do? And they're like in a total panic that they didn't even have to endure if they would have just gone far and wide. Never put all your eggs in one basket. Okay, that is a
Exactly.
great tip for all you writers out there. If you want to have total control, have total control. Okay. Did you have your book professionally edited?
When I published Gemini Divided, I was working with a hybrid publisher at the time. So the one of the professional editors at that publisher actually edited it. When I published my second book, I had self-published because the experience with the hybrid publisher wasn't really for me. And I did later go back and self-publish Gemini Divided also. But at the time when I published this one, it wasn't finding the editor wasn't up to me for this book just because that publisher had an editor.
Okay, okay. Well, that's good. Well, let me just drop a side publishing note in there for all the authors out there, the hybrid publishers. So, of course, you all know Written Words Publishing is a hybrid publishing company, but the difference between Written Words Publishing and most of the other hybrids out there is that we actually do care about our authors. Okay, we work with our authors retain 100% rights to their book, and they have a lot of say so in everything that happens with their book, from the cover to the layout to the price to the discount, everything. Okay, so I just want to put it out there to all you authors out there. There's absolutely nothing wrong with working with a hybrid publisher. The error comes in the publisher that you work with. You need to vet them. You need to make sure that their previous authors are satisfied. Are they listed on the Better Business Bureau? Do they have a good rating? Do they have a lot of complaints? Do they have customer service? If you call, will someone get back to you? There's a whole bunch of different factors that factor into using a good company. So I just had to drop that there just for the sake of being a owner of a hybrid publishing company.
Sorry, no offense intended. It wasn't you guys.
No, no, I know it's not us. I know it's not us, but I just wanted to share that because I see a lot of independent authors. So when they say, "Well, I'm looking at this company, I'm looking at that company," you'll see a whole bunch of other authors saying, "Oh no, run. Don't do that. If you have to pay, then that's not how it goes." But a lot of people just do not understand how the publishing industry works. Okay, you got traditional publishing, you have the hybrid publishing, you have the self publishing, and there's a different nuance to each one of them. And unless you're traditionally published, where you sign a contract and give all your rights over to that publisher and they pay you money to have the rights to your book and take total control over everything in regards to that book, then you're going to have to spend money. So you either, whatever other route you take, if you want your book to be done professionally and look professionally, 5-star material, you're going to have to spend some money. It's just a matter of who you spend the money with and what type of service you receive for the money that you spent. Okay. So I just had to lay that out there. You mentioned that you have another book. Is your other book a suspenseful rom com too? Are you staying in that genre, or are you stepping out?
Well, my second book was actually just more of a romantic suspense. It didn't come out as a rom-com. When I did not set out to write Gemini Divided as a suspenseful rom-com. I looked back at it after I wrote it and said, "Huh, I wonder what did I just write? Oh, I guess it." And I was pitching an agent once at a literary conference, and she said, "Oh, that sounds like a suspenseful rom-com." And I said, "Oh, I'd never even heard of that genre." And I said, "Yeah, that does sound like what it is." So ever since then, that's what I call it.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's good. It's always good to figure out exactly what genre, what lane your work falls into, so you can make sure that you promote it and market it to the right audience. Because everybody doesn't
Exactly.
like everything. Okay.
That's for
That's another
sure.
thing you authors need to realize, that you're not writing for everybody. There's always going to be someone who does not like your work. That's just a fact. Don't take it personal. Don't let it get you down. Don't let it deter you. Don't, it is what it is. Write for your target audience, and that's who you need to be focusing on, and that's who you need to satisfy. But you cannot satisfy everybody. Okay. Put that in your head, keep it in your head, and remember that. So when you see one of those crazy reviews, just know that book wasn't for that person. It was not for that person. Check it up and keep it moving. Okay.
That is so true. So true.
Yes, yes, yes. Is there anything else that you would like to tell the audience about yourself or about your book before we go?
Well, you were asking me about my second book, which is not a suspenseful rom com, but I am currently working on a follow up to Gemini Divided. So I'm making it Gemini Divided that into a series. So Gemini Divided will be book one. And so book two that I'm writing right now actually is a suspenseful rom com. So I'm somewhere in that, going back and forth in that area.
Oh, that's good. So you plan on turning it into a series. That's awesome. Do you have an estimated release date for book two?
I'm in the middle of the editing process right now, so I'm hoping by the end of 2026. Don't
Okay,
have a
that
date
sounds
yet, though.
great. That sounds great. All right. Well, I would suggest that you all go out and get Gemini Divided. It sounds like it's a really fun story. I'll be interested to see how Jen, what she decides, and on whatever decision she decides, how does she, if she decides to kill the guy that she's, attracted to, how is she going to feel about that when she saves her mother, right? Or she decides not to kill him. Now she got to deal with the people that hire her. And I don't know if you know, usually they hire an assassin. If they willing to pay you to kill somebody, they willing to kill you.
She's got herself in a little bit of a pickle right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I would be interested to find out how that pans out, and how she rectified that at the end after she made her decision, and the end result of that. So yes, you will go out there and grab your copy of Gemini Divided. Let's put it up there so y'all can see. That's the cover that y'all want to look for. Go out there and grab that book. You can go to Lauren's website, www.laurenkristenroberts.com, and you're on social media too, right? Let's put that up there. Awesome. Follow her on social media. She's on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, LinkedIn, all over the place, all over the place.
Not
All right.
everything, but lots of them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for joining us on the show today. It was awesome, and everybody loves a good suspense rom-com. Yes, so you can see a relationship develop and deal with the tension at the same time and laugh.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody. We want to thank you for watching us. This is our last show of the year. So I just want to wish everybody a happy holidays, happy new year. Praying that 2026 is a great year for everybody, all the authors out there. We just want to see a huge increase in sales and great reviews in 2026 and some more awesome books. You have a great weekend, and we will catch y'all next year. Adios, everybody.